My daughter-in-law sent me a voicemail that said, "Pack your bags, Grandpa. We're done pretending you matter in this family." I listened to it twice, then poured myself a cup of coffee. By the end of that week, their mortgage application had collapsed, their luxury SUV was gone, and they were sleeping in my son's childhood bedroom at his mother-in-law's house 3 states away. Before I tell you how it all unraveled, do me a favor and let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. I always like to know who's listening. My name is Walter Brennan. I'm 69 years old, and I spent 41 years as a structural engineer in Cleveland, Ohio, before I retired up here in Traverse City, Michigan. I built bridges for a living, real ones. Steel and concrete spans that had to hold up under snow loads, high winds, and tractor trailers barreling across them at 70 miles an hour. You learn something doing that kind of work for 4 decades. You learn that the thing that fails first is almost never the part you're worried about. It's the quiet joint, the connection nobody inspected because everybody assumed it was solid. Turns out my family was the same way. The house I live in sits on a bluff overlooking East Grand Traverse Bay. I bought the lot in 1998 for $92,000 when nobody wanted to be this far from the city. Built the house myself over 2 summers with help from my brother Donnie before he passed. 4 bedrooms, a walkout basement, a detached garage I use as a workshop. Last appraisal came in at $860,000, but I never cared about the number. My wife Eleanor picked out every tile, every cabinet pull, every shade of paint before cancer took her in 2014. That house was her last big project, and I promised her I'd keep it the way she made it. My son Derek was 29 when his mother died. He's 40 now. He works in pharmaceutical sales out of Grand Rapids, pulls down about $90,000 a year when his commissions are good. Smart kid, charming, the type who could sell a space heater in July. His wife Brianne came into the picture about 4 years ago. Met her at some wellness conference in Chicago, where she was representing an essential oils company. Tall, thin, dark hair, the kind of smile that made you check your wallet afterward. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't dislike Brianne at first. I wanted to like her. Derek had been adrift since Eleanor died, and when he brought this woman home for Thanksgiving and she held his hand through the whole dinner, I thought maybe my boy had finally found somebody who could help him carry the weight. I gave her Eleanor's old recipe box as a wedding gift. It's the kind of thing you only give to someone you trust. I should have watched her eyes when she opened it. Their first 2 years of marriage, things were fine on the surface. They bought a condo in Grand Rapids, came up to visit every couple of months, stayed for long weekends. Brianne would take pictures of the bay and post them with little captions about finally finding peace with her husband's family. She ran some kind of online business selling wellness coaching packages. I never fully understood what she sold, but she was always talking about her numbers, her reach, her brand. Derek seemed proud of her. I kept my mouth shut. Then, 2 years ago, Derek called me one Sunday night. His voice was tight. He said they were in a rough patch financially. A real estate investment had gone bad. Brianne's business had taken a hit during a platform change. They were upside down on the condo and drowning in credit card debt. He asked if they could move in with me for 6 months, just until they got steady. He cried a little on the phone. Said he hadn't wanted to ask, but he didn't know where else to turn. I said yes before he finished the sentence. They arrived with a U-Haul and 3 cats I hadn't been told about. Brianne took one look at my living room, the one Eleanor had spent a month decorating, and said, "Oh, Walter, this is going to need some work, isn't it?" She laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. Within a month, Eleanor's drapes were in a box in the garage. Within 3 months, Brianne had rearranged the kitchen, including throwing out a ceramic bowl Eleanor had made in a pottery class in 1987. When I asked about it, Brianne said she donated it because it didn't match the aesthetic. The aesthetic. In my own house. 6 months turned into a year. A year turned into 18 months. The condo in Grand Rapids got foreclosed on, which Derek neglected to mention until the paperwork came in the mail addressed to him at my house. Brianne's business kept supposedly pivoting. Derek's commissions kept supposedly underperforming. Meanwhile, they drove matching Lexus SUVs, ate takeout 4 nights a week on my dime, and had packages from Nordstrom and Lululemon showing up on my porch almost daily. I paid the utilities, I paid the property taxes, I paid the homeowner's insurance. I bought the groceries. When Derek's car needed new tires, I paid for those too because he said he'd pay me back next commission check. That was 14 months ago. I'm still waiting. The comments started small. Brianne would mention casually that her friend's father had moved into a beautiful senior living community near Ann Arbor. She'd show me pictures on her phone. She'd say things like, "Wouldn't it be nice to not have to worry about stairs anymore? I can climb stairs just fine. I can also replace a transmission and frame out a shed, but I didn't bother telling her that. Then it got sharper. She started telling Derek, in front of me, that I was slipping. She'd say I forgot things I hadn't forgotten. She'd move my reading glasses, and then help me find them in places I never put them. One night she told Derek I'd left the stove on. I hadn't cooked that day. Not once. I'd spent the entire afternoon in my workshop. I'm a structural engineer. I notice when something is being set up to fail. About 8 months ago, I met a woman named Delphine at a community fundraiser for the local Veterans Hall. She was 66, a retired pediatric nurse who'd moved up here from Saginaw after her husband died. We had coffee, then we had dinner. Then we started taking long walks along the bay together. For the first time since Eleanor passed, I didn't feel like an old man waiting for the next thing to break. I felt like a person again. I mentioned Delphine to Derek one morning over breakfast. I told him I'd like them to meet her, maybe have her over for Sunday supper. Derek nodded slowly, eyes on his phone. Yeah, Dad, maybe. Let me talk to Brian. Brienne came into the kitchen 10 minutes later, robe pulled tight, face already composed into something between concern and offense. She sat down across from me, took my hand. Her hand was cold. Walter, she said, we love you, we do. But you have to understand how this looks. You're 69, you lost Eleanor, and now some woman you met at a fundraiser is suddenly in your life? We just want to protect you from being taken advantage of. I stared at her. I didn't say a word. And honestly, she said, still holding my hand, still wearing that concerned face, this is our home now too. Bringing a stranger into it, that's a big decision. We'd need to be comfortable with her, and I'm not sure we are. Our home. Our home. I pulled my hand back. I said I had errands to run. I drove into town and I sat in the parking lot of a hardware store for 45 minutes watching snow blow across the asphalt. Then I drove to Delphine's apartment and I told her what had happened, and she made me tea and said, Walter, I'm not going anywhere, but something's wrong in that house, and you know it. I knew it. 2 nights later, I was in my workshop restoring a 1957 Bridgeport milling machine I'd picked up at an estate auction. Big old industrial piece, all cast iron and brass dials, the kind of thing my father would have recognized. I was cleaning the spindle with a wire brush when my phone buzzed on the workbench. It was a voicemail, Brienne's number. I figured she'd called about groceries or some package. I hit play. Her voice was clipped, quiet, the way people talk when they think they're being careful, but they've forgotten how to be careful. Hi, Walter. So, Derek and I talked, and we think it's time to be honest with each other. This living arrangement isn't working. You've been behaving erratically, making accusations, and now bringing a strange woman around. It's not safe. We've decided it's in everyone's best interest if you start looking at other options. Pack your bags, Grandpa. We're done pretending you matter in this family. Call when you're ready to be reasonable. I stood in that cold workshop, the smell of solvent in the air, the Bridgeport half disassembled in front of me, and I listened to it again. Then a third time. I wanted to make sure I heard every word correctly. Then I set the phone down, and I smiled. Not because any of it was funny. Because after 4 decades of engineering, I know exactly what a load-bearing failure sounds like. And I just heard one, recorded and time-stamped, delivered by a woman who didn't understand that voicemails on my phone get backed up to the cloud the second they arrive. I turned off the workshop lights, locked up, and walked back to the house through 8 inches of fresh snow. Derek was asleep on my couch with his laptop open on his chest. Brienne was upstairs, probably posting a photo of her tea. I stood in my own living room and looked around at the place Eleanor built, at her mother's hutch in the corner, at the stained glass piece she'd made hanging in the front window, and I made my decision. They wanted me to disappear. All right, I'd disappear, but I'd take the house with me. The next morning I called a man named Howard Sims. Howard is a trust and estate attorney in Petoskey who handled some matters for me after Eleanor died. We hadn't spoken in 3 years, but I still had his cell. He picked up on the second ring. I told him I needed an appointment. Today, if possible. He asked if it was urgent. I said yes. He moved a deposition and told me to be at his office by 2. I was there at 1:45. Howard's a big man, built like a former college wrestler, which he is. He sat across from me in his office while I explained everything. The 18 months, the grocery bills, the insults, the voicemail, which I'd already emailed him. He listened without interrupting, the way good lawyers do, taking notes on a yellow legal pad in handwriting I couldn't read. When I finished, he set his pen down. Walter, first question. Whose name is on the deed? Mine, sole owner. Eleanor and I had it that way from the beginning because of the workshop insurance. Any written lease with your son and his wife? No. Any financial arrangement on paper? Promissory note? IOU? Co-signed anything? I co-signed a personal loan for Derek 4 years ago. $22,000 for what he called a certification program. He still owes about 16 on it. Howard wrote that down. Then he looked up. What do you want to happen here, Walter? Tell me honestly. Don't tell me what you think you're supposed to say. I thought about it for a minute. I thought about Eleanor's ceramic bowl in a donation bin somewhere. I thought about Derek at 10 years old helping me pour a concrete footing for a deer blind behind our old house. I thought about Brienne's cold hand on mine, the word Grandpa sitting in my voicemail like a splinter. I want them out, I said. I want that loan off my back. And I want the house sold so they can never come back to it and pretend it was theirs. I'm not looking to hurt them. I'm looking to stop letting them hurt me. Howard nodded. That's a reasonable goal, and it's all achievable. Legally, you're in an extremely strong position. You have a recorded voicemail where your daughter-in-law tells you to leave, which establishes they consider themselves the rightful occupants. That actually helps us. It shows intent. It also shows elder intimidation, which Michigan takes seriously. He pulled out a form. Here's what we're going to do. Today you sign a 30-day notice to vacate. We serve it tomorrow morning by certified courier. At the same time, we send formal notice to the bank that you're withdrawing from cosigner obligations on your son's personal loan due to estrangement. That triggers a credit review. They'll have 14 days to either pay the balance, find another cosigner, or face default. In the house? Call a realtor this week, not a friend, a pro. List it aggressively. You'll have offers in days up there. Meanwhile, you move out quietly. You don't tell them, you let the 30-day notice do the talking. When they call, you route everything through me. I signed the paperwork. Howard stood up and shook my hand. His grip was firm. Walter, he said, I've been doing this 26 years. I've seen a lot of families tear themselves apart over money. But I'll tell you this. The parents who come in here after 10 years of being bled dry, the ones who waited too long, they don't look like you. You still have something left to protect. Protect it. I drove home through the snow and started planning. The next 2 weeks, I moved like a man who'd just been told he had limited time. I rented a small furnished house on the other side of the peninsula, month to month, under a rental agreement that listed only my name and my attorney's address. I started quietly moving things out. My clothes, my tools, Eleanor's stained glass piece, which I took down at 6 in the morning while Derek and Brienne were still asleep and replaced with a blank frame they never noticed was empty. Her mother's hutch. The recipe box I'd given Brienne as a wedding gift, which I took back without a word and which she never mentioned missing, which told me everything I needed to know about what it had meant to her. I met with a realtor named Joyce Haverford. 40 years in the business, sharp as a drill bit. She walked through the house while Brienne was out at one of her wellness meetings. Told me she could list at $895. Expected offers within 72 hours. I told her to wait until the 30-day notice was served, then move fast. The courier arrived at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday. I wasn't home. I was at Delphine's apartment, cooking her eggs. My phone started buzzing around 11:30. Derek. Brienne. Derek again? Brienne again? I didn't answer. At noon, I finally picked up. Derek was practically yelling. Dad, what the hell is this? A 30-day notice? Some lawyer named Sims? This is insane. You can't evict us from our own house. Derek. What? It's not your house. It's never been your house. You've been living there rent-free for 18 months. The notice gives you 30 days to either begin paying market rent of $3,000 a month or vacate. Those are the only two options. You're doing this because of that woman. I'm doing this because your wife left me a voicemail telling me to pack my bags and stop pretending I matter in the family. I still have it. Would you like me to send it to you? Silence on the line. Then Brienne's voice grabbing the phone. Walter, that was a joke. That was clearly a joke and you're taking it out of context. A joke. I said the word slowly. Brienne, I've made my decision. Anything further goes through my attorney. His number is in the letter you received. I hung up. They called back 41 times in the next 6 hours. I put the phone on silent and took Delphine to lunch. Over the next 10 days, things moved exactly the way Howard said they would. The bank sent Derek a letter explaining that I'd withdrawn from cosigner obligations and that the remaining balance of $16,300 was now due in full within 14 days. Derek called me screaming about it. I let him scream. I didn't respond. When he finally ran out of breath, I said, "Derek, when you co-sign a loan with somebody, you're telling the bank that this person is trustworthy and that you'll stand behind them. I don't stand behind either of you anymore. That's the only message I'm sending." And I hung up. Joyce listed the house on day 12. By day 14, we had 3 offers. 2 were cash. One was from a young doctor and his wife who were relocating from Denver. They offered $875, 30-day close, no contingencies. I accepted. Day 15, I had the moving company come while Derek was at work, and Brienne was supposedly at a client meeting but was actually, according to her Instagram, getting a facial in downtown Traverse City. The movers took everything of mine that was left. My workshop tools, the last of Eleanor's belongings, my personal papers. The cats stayed. They weren't mine. I left a note on the kitchen counter. It said, "Derek, the house has been sold. Closing is in 28 days. You have until then to remove your belongings. After that, anything remaining becomes the property of the new owners. My attorney will handle any further communication." Dad, I didn't sign it, love. I didn't sign it anything. I just wrote Dad because that's still a fact, whether either of us likes it or not. Then I drove to my rental house on the other side of the peninsula, and I unpacked, and I made a pot of coffee, and I sat on the back porch, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 months. I felt quiet. The screaming started around 6 that evening. Voicemails from Derek, text messages from Brienne, one voicemail from Brienne's mother, who I'd never actually met, calling me a monster. I saved them all. I forwarded them to Howard. I went to bed at 9:30, and I slept 9 straight hours for the first time since Eleanor died. The next morning, Derek was waiting for me in the parking lot of the diner where Delphine and I had breakfast every Saturday. I don't know how he found it. I suspect Brienne had hired somebody. He came at me across the parking lot, coat unbuttoned, eyes red. "Dad, please, please, we have nowhere to go. Brienne's business is collapsing. The bank is taking my paycheck now. We can't find a place that'll rent to us with our credit. Please." I stopped 10 feet from him. Delphine stayed behind me. "Derek, I'm going to say this once. You had 18 months to treat me with basic respect. You had a wife who called me grandpa in a voicemail where she told me I didn't matter, and you did nothing. You watched her throw out your mother's belongings, and you said nothing. You let her move my things and tell me I was losing my mind, and you sat on the couch with your laptop open. Every single time I needed you to be a son, you chose her. Now you're asking me to be a father. Doesn't work like that. You don't get to switch the account back on after you've drained it." He was crying now. Real tears. But I'd seen Derek cry over a scratched car door. Crying wasn't evidence of anything. "Dad, I'll do anything. Tell me what to do. Leave Brienne, get a studio apartment, get a second job, pay that loan yourself, go to therapy, spend a year proving to yourself that you're a grown man. After that, maybe we talk. Not before, and not with her in the picture. Ever." He stared at me. I could see the calculation in his eyes. The one where he was weighing how much of that he could actually do versus how much of it he could fake. That calculation alone told me everything. I turned around and walked into the diner with Delphine. I ordered eggs and a short stack. I didn't look at the window to see if he was still there. Here's what happened over the next 3 months, as best as I can piece it together. The house closed on time. The doctor and his wife moved in. The young wife wrote me a handwritten note 2 weeks later thanking me for leaving the stained glass hooks intact above the front window. She said she hoped to hang something beautiful there. I wrote her back and told her about Eleanor, and that it was the right house for new beginnings. Derek and Brienne moved out the week before closing. They went to a motel outside Cadillac, then to an extended stay place in Grand Rapids. Brienne's business didn't just collapse, it imploded. Turned out she'd been pyramiding income from one coaching platform into another, taking money from new clients to pay out old ones. 3 of those old ones filed complaints with the state attorney general. I learned about this from Howard, who had contacts everywhere. Derek's personal loan went into default. His wages got garnished. His car, the Lexus, got repossessed from the motel parking lot in the middle of the night, which I know because Brienne posted a tearful video about it on her Instagram before realizing that crying on camera wasn't quite the brand builder she thought it was. 2 months after the closing, Brienne left Derek. She moved in with a man she'd been talking to online for roughly 8 months, somebody who owned a used car lot in Indianapolis. She took one of the Lexus SUVs, the one they hadn't lost yet. She left Derek the cats. Derek called me from a payphone at a truck stop. A payphone, I didn't know those still existed. He was sober. He sounded older than 40. Dad. I wanted to tell you Brienne's gone. I wanted to tell you were right. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to hear me say it out loud. You were right about all of it. I sat with that for a long moment. Then I said, I'm sorry you're hurting, son. I really am. But being right doesn't make me feel good. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted her to be who she said she was. I wanted you to be who I raised. I know. Are you safe? Do you have a place? I'm staying with a buddy from college in Lansing, sleeping on his couch. I have a job interview Monday. It's not sales, it's a warehouse thing, but it's work. Good, take it, work it. Don't call me for a year. If you're still working it at the end of that year, call me then. We'll have coffee. Not dinner. Coffee. Okay, Dad. Derek? Yeah? I love you. That never changed. But love doesn't mean I have to keep bleeding for you. It means I want you to grow up. Go do it. I hung up. I sat on the porch of my rental house. Delphine came out and put her hand on my shoulder and didn't say anything, which is one of the best qualities a person can have. I'm telling you this story from the front room of a small waterfront cottage Delphine and I bought together 6 months ago. It's 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen, a screened porch, a dock with a rowboat tied up to it. We split the cost. We're not married. We don't need to be. We're 2 people who found each other late and know what we've got. I'm 69 years old. I'll be 70 in March. I have a workshop in the garage. I have 17 restored antique tools lined up on the wall, each one a piece of somebody else's life I brought back from rust. I have a woman who laughs at my jokes and tells me when I'm being stubborn. I have savings that will last me. Rental income from a duplex in Kalamazoo I bought with some of the house proceeds, and a view of the water that changes every single morning. Derek called me 4 weeks ago. Right on time, almost to the day, a year since we last spoke. He's still at the warehouse. He got promoted to shift lead. He's in a rented room. He's been in counseling for 8 months. He's paid down the personal loan from $16,000 to about $9,000. He didn't ask for anything. He just wanted me to know. I said, let's have that coffee. There's a place in Cadillac halfway between us. We met last week. He looks thinner, older, calmer. We sat for an hour. We didn't talk about Brienne. We talked about his mother. About Bridges, my old work. Some beams he remembered crossing with me when he was a little boy. We paid separately. I hugged him at the car. I told him I was proud of the work he was doing. I didn't tell him I forgave him, because forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a direction, and we're walking in that direction now, but we're not there, and we may never fully get there, and that's all right. Because here's the thing I wish I'd understood 30 years ago. The people who love you don't tell you to disappear. They don't leave voicemails calling you grandpa in a voice that sounds like a closing door. They don't throw out your dead wife's belongings because the aesthetic is off. And when you're built the way I'm built, when you've spent 41 years making sure bridges don't fall down, the last thing you're going to tolerate is a quiet joint rotting out inside your own home. I sold the house. I cut the loan. I left the town. I kept my name, my money, and my dignity. And I became the kind of man who gets to sit on a porch with a good woman and watch the sun come up over water that belongs to nobody and therefore belongs to everyone. They wanted me to pack my bags, so I did. I just didn't pack them the way they expected. If this story meant something to you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Tell me in the comments, what's the quiet joint in your own life right now? The thing you've been ignoring because you assumed it was solid? Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is take a wrench to it before it fails on its own. I'll see you in the next one.